Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. In today's video I'm going to be talking about self-concept and how to step into a new version of yourself, and I will be sharing stories from my life and other people's lives to help show you how it's done and to inspire you. Your self-concept is the way that you see yourself and the world and people and everything in the world. And your self-concept is usually more often than not based on oftentimes just one experience you had as a child that created this lens through which you now see yourself and the world. The way your unconscious mind works is that it looks for a point of reference for everything you experience. So when you experience something, your mind obviously naturally draws reference from something in order to kind of create a frame to kind of contain this experience, to draw understanding from, and the only point of reference your mind has is the past, and that is your self-concept. That is the lens through which you are now seeing experiences and yourself. It is the point of reference your mind goes to create a frame to contain what you are now experiencing, to create a lens through which to see things. And like I said, this self-concept is almost always based on one experience or a few experiences that no longer apply to you. It is always based on your past, because that is all the unconscious mind knows. It only knows your past. So that is what it will draw reference from. So this obviously creates the problem of, if we do not have much awareness of this process our mind goes through, we are often stuck in a place of viewing ourselves and viewing our lives and other people through the lens of a past experience that no longer applies to us and is actually hindering us in our lives today. It's keeping us in a past version of ourselves that we no longer want to be stuck in. Now, your self-concept is what creates your comfort zone. Your comfort zone is your thoughts, feelings, and actions that are all in alignment with that version of you. So inevitably, in order to step out of this self-concept and this past version of ourselves, that means stepping outside of our comfort zone, because your current comfort zone is your thoughts, feelings, and actions that are equal to that past version of you. So if you want to step into a new version of yourself, you have to stop thinking, feeling, and acting equal to that past version of you. And that means stepping outside of your comfort zone. The story you are telling about yourself and the story you are telling about the world, the beliefs you hold about yourself, the world, and people, and the feelings you therefore have in response to those stories, and the actions you therefore take because you act as you believe, they are all equal to a past version of you that is keeping you in that reality. So in order to step into a new version of yourself, we need to change the story we are telling. We need to dismantle the story we are telling and expose this story as often being based on one experience that no longer applies to us. We need to then stop telling the story, therefore stop receiving the same emotions and chemicals in response, and stop taking the same actions. Because even if you start telling a new story, if you are still taking the same actions that are in alignment with a past version of you, you are going to stay there, because you are acting equal to that version of you. For example, if you are stuck in a self-concept and therefore a version of yourself that is lacking confidence, if you don't have awareness that you are telling this story about yourself, you will avoid doing things, taking actions that require more confidence from you. And because you are unconsciously avoiding taking actions that require more confidence from you, you do not build confidence. If a person is stuck in a version of themselves that is lacking confidence, and that person forces themselves to go to the gym every day by themselves, that person will very quickly acclimate to the new experience they are having, and they will start experiencing more confidence. Because something I have noticed is that human beings are literally like muscles. It's how we're designed. We need to stretch ourselves, and when we stretch ourselves beyond our comfort zone, we start doing things that at first are uncomfortable. After a short period of time, we acclimate, and we are now comfortable doing things we were once not comfortable doing because we have stretched ourselves. It's like if you literally think about stretching a muscle, there is a period of uncomfortability. It's uncomfortable to stretch yourself if you're not particularly flexible. And then after you've done that for a short period of time, you are then able to very easily go further than you went before. And this is how human beings are. So it's inevitable that if you want to change the version of yourself, if you want to change your self-concept, you are going to need to take actions that at first will feel uncomfortable to you. And even the new story you start telling may feel uncomfortable. If you have believed for such a long time that you are just naturally somebody who's not confident, it may be uncomfortable at first to start telling a story where you are saying, actually, I am confident. And the story can be as gentle as, I was born confident, I'm naturally confident, and it's just the experiences that I had that made me believe different. It can be that gentle at first. But even that may be uncomfortable to you, but it is necessary because human beings are designed to stretch. We are designed to stretch ourselves so that we can go further than we went before. When we are stepping into a new version of ourselves, what is inevitable is an initial stretch, because you are stepping outside of your comfort zone and doing things that are not contained in your previous comfort zone. So it is inevitable that we have this period of stretching in order to take us into a new version of ourselves. Now, something I've noticed with people who are trying to change their self-concept is they make the mistake of thinking it is just either an internal process or just a physical process. And what I have learned is that you need both, because in a sense, the physical and the non-physical reflect one another. They either try to change the physical without doing any of the inner work. So they're not working on dismantling the stories they've been telling. They're not working on telling themselves a new story. They're not doing any of that inner work. They're just trying to change the physical and hoping it will make them into a new version of themselves. Like, you know, they want to feel more confident, so all they do is, I don't know, like change their appearance. You know, they do something physical to try and change how they feel about themselves. Or they go the other way and they focus on how they see themselves, and they start telling a new story and they start visualizing themselves as this new version, but at the same time they are simultaneously refusing to take any new actions. So they are trying to step into a new version of themselves whilst continuing to take the actions of the old version of them, and that is keeping them in alignment with the old version of them, okay? So when we want to change our self-concept and step into a new version of ourselves, we have to get both. You have to be working on yourself inwardly and dismantling the stories and telling a new story, but you also have to be stepping outside of your comfort zone actively, because they go together. You act as you believe. Think about the comfort zone you are in now. It's based on your past, and it's controlling the way you act and the way you respond to life. So if you are refusing to change that part of things, you are essentially refusing the inner part as well. If you are refusing to change the action, you are essentially resisting the changing of your self-concept, because you act as you believe. You act as you believe. So if you believed differently, you would be acting differently anyway. So if you were trying to act the same whilst trying to see yourself differently, you are contradicting yourself. You cannot resist one without resisting the other. You have to allow both. So I'm going to be sharing some stories with you about my life and also other people who have successfully changed their self-concept and stepped into a new version of themselves, and also some stories that exemplify when someone tries to change just one, like their actions or their story, while resisting the other. So from my own life, if you've watched my channel for a while, you've probably heard me speaking about how I had some experiences as a child. I was terrified of people. I was terrified of being seen. I cannot express to you the contrast and the gravity of how much things have changed. I went from being a teenager who barely left her house for a few years to being somebody in my early 20s who performed on stage in front of hundreds of people, right? So it's a huge contrast. And I did that by letting go of those stories I'd been telling myself that were based on a past that no longer applied to me but was keeping me imprisoned. And I did that through the method I've explained, which is telling a new story, dismantling the old story, telling a new one, and then actively stepping into it. The experiences I went through to get to like being comfortable enough to be on a stage in front of loads of people, they were uncomfortable. I had to go through many uncomfortable experiences, but I stretched myself into a new version of myself. But like I said, human beings, we are literally designed for this. We are like muscles. Even our bodies work this way. We are designed to be stretching ourselves. It's like when you start telling a new story about confidence and then you start taking actions that require more confidence from you, you will very quickly become more confident. You may not see that now, but you will. I've done it myself and I've taught other people to do it. It's like I had this friend who was terrified to go to the gym by herself, and I said to her, like, tell yourself a new story, dismantle this story from your past, tell a new story, and allow yourself to just go through this short period of uncomfortability. And she did it, and literally after a few weeks she had gained more confidence, and she was now confident enough to do things like go to the gym by herself, speak in front of other people, speak up, project her voice. It happens quickly, quicker than you think. Because you are now telling a story and feeling feelings in response to that story and taking actions that are now in alignment with another version of you. All of these things, the story, the feelings in response, the actions, they are in alignment with another version of you because they are outside of your comfort zone. Your comfort zone is all the thoughts, feelings, and actions that are in alignment with that version of you. So if you start telling a new story, new feelings, new actions, it's in alignment with another version of you, a version of you that, for example, has more confidence. So I heard this story years ago, and it was an actress saying how she suffered, when she was a teenager, she suffered with a really bad extreme stutter. And she said that nothing she did made her stutter go away. It's like she couldn't make the stutter go away. And then the second she got up on stage and got into character, her stutter completely disappeared. The second she was up on stage and in character, her stutter completely disappeared. Now, I find this so fascinating and inspiring for so many reasons. So if we think about what she did, so if you know anything about acting, and I only know this because I listen to actors talking about it, I don't act or anything, but I've heard so many actors talking about this, and you know, if you listen to them, people kind of think that acting is pretending, but acting is absolutely not pretending. Somebody who is acting is not just acting outwardly, they are acting inwardly as well. So they take on their character's story. They take on their character's story, thoughts and feelings and experiences. They take on all of that when they are acting. So they're not just outwardly being their character, they are inwardly thinking as their character. So when she got up on stage and did that, she completely let go of her story. In that moment, she was no longer telling the story and having the feelings of the girl who stutters. It was gone when she was in character. Okay, so not only did she let go of the story, because like I can't stress this enough, actors, they really do step into their character. They feel as their character feels, okay? So she was not just outwardly not being herself anymore, she was inwardly not being the girl who stutters anymore, okay? And also, she was actively, physically taking the actions of someone who doesn't stutter, okay? Because in her own life, when she was just being herself, she struggled with confidence because of the stutter. And the actions she was taking, she got up on stage in front of all of these people and physically, actively took the actions of somebody who wasn't stuttering. She physically acted confident, okay? So, I don't know, I just find this story really fascinating and inspiring that she was able to do that, to overcome this huge thing just by taking on a new story and, you know, allowing herself to be that inwardly and outwardly, okay? And by the way, I'm not saying anything extreme like you need to create some different character, like of course not. It's just another version of yourself. It's just another level of yourself, you know? And this is just an example of how that can be done, you know? Another interesting story is this guy I used to be friends with. He was once telling me how he got promoted and he was suddenly making so much more money, but he was telling me that he didn't feel like he was making any more money because, and like when we were talking about this, I kind of helped him figure out why he doesn't feel that he's making any more money. And it was because his actions had, it's like because he had no awareness of his self-concept. He had been in this self-concept, in this version of himself that didn't have enough money, okay? So then when the physical changed, but he wasn't working on the story, he was still telling the same story because he had no self-awareness about self-concept and the comfort zone and the actions he was taking and how they were in alignment with the past version of him. So he carried on, like he was unconsciously driven to get rid of that money. Literally, he was unconsciously driven to get rid of the money because although the physical had changed, he had no awareness of his self-concept. So he was unconsciously trying to stay in the comfort zone, and the comfort zone was this version of him that struggles with money and doesn't have enough money. So he had been unconsciously spending his money on things he did not need or even want to spend money on. So this is a really good example of how when one changes but the other doesn't, it just doesn't align and the version of you doesn't completely change, because we need to have, because like I said, they are one in the same. You act as you believe. Your self-concept, the story you are telling, is controlling your actions. So if you try to just change one, if you just try to change the actions but you're not doing the inner work, you're going to be unconsciously driven to stay in the same place. And vice versa, if you are just telling a new story whilst you are actively keeping yourself in the same actions, you are refusing to go outside of your comfort zone, you are refusing going outside of that version of you. So we need both, and this is a very good example of that. The reason this occurs is because your unconscious mind perceives that old version of you and the comfort zone that comes along with it to be safe, okay? So it is essentially trying to protect you, and so the way it does that is by trying to keep you in that comfort zone. So if you don't have awareness of your self-concept and the comfort zone that comes along with that, you will be unconsciously driven to literally recreate that comfort zone. This is why oftentimes when people suddenly gain money and they have not changed their self-concept, they will literally be unconsciously driven to sabotage that new situation, because their unconscious mind perceives this to be unsafe. Okay, because it's new, it's outside of the comfort zone, it's unfamiliar, and the unconscious mind's intention is to protect you, and it does that by keeping you in the known, okay? So if we lack awareness of these things, this is what self-sabotage is. This is our unconscious mind trying to keep us in what it perceives to be safe. So if you don't have awareness of these things, you will literally be unconsciously driven to recreate that old comfort zone by often sabotaging the new experience. We see people doing this a lot with relationships. When you have somebody who's not dealt with their past experiences and past wounds, what you will see when they then enter into a new relationship is they will often unconsciously create the old experience. They will often unconsciously be driven to do things that, in a sense, recreate their past experiences and sabotage the relationship. This is literally your unconscious mind driving you to recreate the experiences, the comfort zone it perceives as being safe, all the thoughts, feelings and actions, the environment that are a reflection of that past version of you that has been created from a past experience, which is the only thing your unconscious mind knows, and it perceives the known to be safe because it knows it, okay? Obviously the unknown it's scary to the unconscious mind. It's unknown. So it's a risk. So it tries to keep you in the known. So if we lack awareness, we will often sabotage our new experiences if we are not being conscious about this. Our self-concept can become a prison in so many ways that we often don't notice. For example, if you were betrayed in your past and it had such a deep impact on you that it created this self-concept of you saw yourself as somebody who's always betrayed and let down, and also this self-concept of other people where you see people through this lens of always betraying you and letting you down. And so when we don't have awareness of this self-concept, and you go into a new experience with somebody who you actually could trust, because you are seeing yourself and other people through this lens, you respond in accordance with that version of you that got hurt, and you close up because your actions are in alignment with that version of you that got hurt. You are unconsciously taking the actions that are in alignment with a past experience, not with the current experience. And this is just one of the ways our self-concept can become a prison when we don't have awareness of it. Another example is from the book Psycho-Cybernetics. So it's written by a cosmetic surgeon who noticed that so many people would come into his office and ask them to change particular things about their appearance because they believed that was the thing that was making them less attractive. And so he would change these things that they asked him to change, and he noticed that almost all of them would come back and say, actually, I need you to change this thing because this thing is making me unattractive. And he eventually realized it was because they were changing the physical, but they were not changing their self-image. They were changing the physical, but they were still seeing themselves through the lens of the past version of themselves. So they were not capable of seeing themselves as attractive, even though their physicality had changed. So this is another example of how you can't have one without the other. So these stories really exemplify the power of our self-image and how we can change it by stepping inwardly and outwardly into a new version of ourselves, and understanding that it's not just an inner journey or just an outer journey. They go hand in hand, and you cannot resist one without resisting the other, because your thoughts, feelings, and actions are always equal to that version of you that you are in, okay? So you cannot change the version of you without changing all of those things. So if you are in resistance to taking new actions, you are in resistance to a new self-image. You are in resistance to a new version of you. If you are taking actions but you are not changing your story, you are in resistance to a new self-image, a new version of yourself. You cannot resist one without the other. Something I find really fascinating about the nature of reality is, if we think about emotions and the chemicals within our body, you can sit here and literally just inspire feelings of joy and pleasure and happiness, and your body will immediately respond with an action of producing dopamine, just because you have felt those emotions. And vice versa, if you put dopamine into somebody's body, their body will respond with an emotion. That person will then feel pleasure, happiness, and joy. So it's like everything just works together. It's like the physical and the non-physical. It's like they're really just two sides of the same coin. You cannot resist one without resisting the other. And the reason I stress this so much is because this is the thing I see happening with people. They either think it's just an inner process or it's just an outer process. And because they believe that, they end up being stuck and nothing ends up changing for them. You are always in a comfort zone, and your comfort zone is a series of thoughts, feelings, and actions that are equal to the version of you that you are in, the self-concept that you are in, that is based on your past. So if you don't have awareness of this, you will continue to think, feel, and act in accordance with that. So if we want to change this, it takes awareness of that, the dismantling of the story, the telling of a new story, and the willingness to take new actions, to go through that stretch of stepping out of the comfort zone, the thoughts, feelings, and actions that are in alignment with that version of you, in order to come into alignment with a new version of yourself, by stretching yourself into a new comfort zone. Because if you were in a new version of yourself, you would be taking new actions anyway. So that stretch is always necessary and has to happen. It's a combination of all of these things, because like I said, you are thinking, feeling, and acting equal to that version of you. So if you want to become a new version of yourself, you have to think, feel, and act in accordance with that new version of yourself. That past version of me and that past experience I was acting upon, being totally afraid of people, because I was in that version of myself and acting from it, I kept myself away from so many things I wanted to do. It's like the performance I did on stage. That's something I wanted to manifest, and I couldn't have done that if I stayed in that version of me. I had to become a version of me that was more confident in front of people and was capable of doing more than the past version of me was capable of. So if you want something new, you have to become something new up here and out here. You have to become something new, and you have to do something new. You have to step into a new comfort zone, because we are always in comfort zones. I mean, there's like, the only time we're not in comfort zones is when we're stretching ourselves from one comfort zone to another. But when we go through that stretch, we then step into a new comfort zone, because the things that were uncomfortable to us before, that we had to stretch to get into and go through that uncomfortable period of, because they were not familiar to us, they become familiar and are then comfortable, okay? And so then it's like, once you get into the new comfort zone, it's like, I'm now in a comfort zone. Now that I have stretched myself into a version of me that's not afraid of people, I am now in a comfort zone. It's just a comfort zone that has way more confidence, and is comfortable with way more things that I was once not comfortable with, okay? But it's still a comfort zone. So even then, you're going to have to still stretch yourself into new versions of you to get more things that you desire. It's a never-ending process, because we are designed to be doing this, because human beings are designed to adapt. We are designed to be stepping into new environments and stretching ourselves further than we went before. We are designed to do that. That's why when we start doing new things, like taking actions that require more confidence from us, we very quickly become more confident, because we are like muscles. We stretch and then we repair, stronger and more flexible than we were before. The version of you that you want to be is, I'm not talking about some far off parallel reality. The version of you that you want to be is within you right now. Think about it this way. You have the capability to become more confident. You have the capability to become more open. You have the capability to do these things right now. Okay, so that version of you is within you right now. It's just that you are not in alignment with it, because the thoughts, feelings, and actions that you are currently taking are in alignment with another version of you, the past version of you that your self-concept is currently built upon. So I'm not speaking about some far off reality. The version of you that you want to be is within you right now. You're just not allowing yourself to be in alignment with it, because you are acting, thinking, and feeling equal to another version of you. And you are staying within a comfort zone, which is an accumulation of all of those things, thoughts, feelings, and actions that are equal to that past version of you and those past experiences that created a lens through which you are now seeing yourself and the world, and you are acting upon it. Self-concept is the key to manifesting all those things you desire, because if you think about the things that you desire, it is a different version of you that is living those things, that has those things, a version of you that has stretched yourself further and is therefore able to do more and have more, because you're a different person, because you've stretched yourself, okay? So changing our self-concept is the key to having all the things that we want, because in order to get things that you don't have now, you have to do something different. And right now, everything that you do, the actions you are taking, are in alignment with the past version of you. That's why you're not getting anything new. So if you want those things that you desire, you have to change your self-concept, and you have to step outside of your comfort zone, because your comfort zone are thoughts, feelings, and actions that are getting you results that are in alignment with your past version, because all the thoughts, feelings, and actions are in alignment with that past version. So changing this is the key to having those things you desire. So thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope it's helped you, and I'll see you soon.